order at 7:11. So that should be good for some good luck.
I need a Slurpee.
So we'll do a roll call, please. Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
are you present or are you just
Aye.
saying?
Yes, present.
Sorry, Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron here.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy here.
Fran Collins,
I am present.
and Gina Stino present. Okay, so the first item that we have on the agenda is something that we didn't finish. It's a little unfinished business from last week, which is the advisory committee reorganization for the vice chair position. We did talk about voting this position now with the thought that Mary will stay in the role, but the new person can kind of shadow her for the next few months until town meeting. It's only a couple of months away. So does somebody have a nomination that they could enter for vice chair?
I would like to nominate Mark Cameron for vice chair.
If he's accepting it, I'll second it.
I will accept it.
Okay, great.
I think you'd be fabulous, Mark, and we need to just start planning ahead a little bit. And certainly your work on other committees and just your professional background, I think would be a huge asset for a lot of what we have to deal with.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll look forward to working with you also and teaching you the ropes. Maybe you'll be the next chair. Who knows?
You still got a few years. You got a couple of years. Yeah.
No, I only have one more year after this. So there you go. Okay, so the nomination has been made for Mark Cameron and it has been seconded. So could we have a roll call, please? Fran Collins,
Aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Mary McGoldrick, aye.
and Gina Stino, aye. And Mark Cameron?
Aye.
Great. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Oh. Thank you. Good choice.
I think it is. I think it's a very good choice. So next item on the agenda, as I mentioned last time, in case somebody wasn't here, but I think everybody was, I pushed this to the top of the agenda for each week because it's a real quick item. And I can't stand it when it's at the end and people are just so wiped out that they don't want to even spend 5 minutes on it. And then we end up with 3 that we have to approve. So we're not going to do that anymore. So do I have are there any comments on the minutes of February 26, 2025?
Oh,
No.
Okay, then could I have a motion to accept those minutes, please?
so moved.
Second. Diane.
Yep. Okay, roll call. Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins,
Aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Mary McGoldrick, aye.
and Gina Stino. Aye. Okay, so that's all set. And next is the fiscal year 26 budget discussion. And the first one on the agenda is DPW.
So because Nick is here and Brian's not, I just assume if you're okay, we'll just jump to Nick first.
Sure.
I mean, it's part of Public Works, right? But he's here. And I know he had a couple of, and you've been made co-host, Nick, so you can share directly. And
yeah, it started as a quick little slide, but it turned into a couple more than that. I'll whip through it though, because we just kind of wanted to go through all the stuff facilities does.
I think Fran has a question.
Yeah.
You raised this thing.
Oh, yes. I had a substantial conversation with the highway department last week. And I've got some pretty good information on what they're looking for and why they need it. So we need to discuss that. I'm available to do that. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, Nick, take it away.
Man, did this load up nice? Everyone see?
Oh, yeah.
So Facilities department consists of,
Nothing is loaded up.
oh, it
We
didn't
don't
load?
have
I
anything
don't see
to look
anything.
at.
Hmm. What's it showing right now?
Yeah, are all of our smiling faces.
I clicked share, so. Oh, haha, there it is. Never mind.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
All right, now we can. Almost. There we go.
All right. So facilities department, as many of you probably know, some might not know, we're a staff of, 7 full bodies, but, 6, actually, yeah, so 6 full-time, 2 part-time custodial. And, I just want to highlight some of the stuff that we do that maybe not everybody knows. The town common holiday lighting, which has obviously grown a lot over the last
Hmm.
5 years or so. That's a fully in-house job that my team does. And every year we continue to add and try to make it better. And it's become a large project. There's a lot of planning that goes into it. And but it's kind of a fun thing for our department to do. And compared to other communities, I feel like we pull this off for a very minimal amount of money comparatively because we do all the labor in-house. So we're only paying for the lights. So it's a fun little thing we do. And then just a quick little snapshot. You all have this, I think, so it's all information that you're probably aware of. We're not asking for a large increase this year. It's pretty level minus salary increase and some contractual stuff. We've really made some strides on keeping a lot of labor in-house now, so we're able to, not ask for a lot year over year, which is is proven to be good, and we're getting more done that way. Just a quick little snippet of some of the stuff we've done in the past year. We completed the new generator at the public safety building, which is great. That's going to be fantastic. Covers the whole building. Roof at the Paul Pratt Library we did. We just wrapped up upgrading the elementary school HVAC control systems fully. So that brings all 3 schools up to the same new system, which is great. It's been good. And part of that is we usually have a mechanical deficiency list that we create afterwards, because a lot of issues come to light when you fix the controls, and we've made a massive amount of progress this year going through that school or both those schools. So
What's BMS?
it's like the building management system. So all the HVAC controls.
Thank you.
And then Deer Hill, we finished the final phase of all the new flooring, which is great. So now that school is 100% flooring that does not need to be stripped and waxed every year. So that cuts down on material costs. It cuts down on custodial time in the summer, so they can concentrate on other things instead of just wasting the summer away redoing the floors. So that's been great. And we did the new town hall roof, which went off without a hitch. Even the small hitch we ran into wasn't even a speed bump, and it was great. And then some small things that may go unnoticed, may not. We painted every single railing around all of the schools, and there's a lot of railings. When you start painting them, you realize as such, but they probably hadn't been done in well over 10 years, and it really added a lot of curb appeal to the buildings. So that was great. And then we continue with any other painting projects we've been doing in the buildings. This coming year or 2 years, we're working on replacing the roof of the Osgood School, and we were accepted to the MSBA Accelerator program, which is great. So fully on board, assisting us with going through that process. At some point, we'll find out how much they're going to contribute towards the project, which should be significant. So that's going to take a lot of funding off of our plate to redo that school. And part of the reason we were accepted and we're a good candidate going forward for other school buildings is we have a very, very extensive roofing contract where we do biannual inspections. And each school has a 60-page report every time they do this with all the leaks. They do a thermal imaging report for wet insulation. And we've been doing this for the past, since 2019, and it's been paying off dividends with how fast we can fix leaks and how we're setting our roofs up for replacement or restoration to just go for it. We don't have to do much work to qualify for these things. So going forward, this is going to be critical for our roofs that are past their useful life at this point, and we're going to be able to, maintain them past their useful life until we can get into an accelerated repair program and get some funding for it. Obviously, town hall project is coming up. That's going to be big. The library is in need of a lot of exterior masonry work, and we are kicking that phased approach to that building off this year with some immediate fixes that we need to do. And then obviously with the help of advisory, we're going to be fixing that elevator that is in need of repair at the middle high school, which the parts should be in by the end of the month. So that should kick off pretty soon, which should be great. Just a couple of photos of the roof project, railings, and just to show how much we do in-house at the RTF. This is prior to the disaster down there, but the glass shed was having some issues and very dilapidated. All the siding was kind of falling off, and it was not the safest building. In-house, we were able to totally reframe all the problems and resheathe the building for just the cost of material. So these are some of the things that we're trying to do. This is some pics of the new flooring at Deer Hill. This is something we did in-house at the middle school this summer. The old fire extinguisher, if you want to call them cabinets, they were just thrown in there back in 2001, 2002. They're terrible. So we were able to buy nice new ones, install them at the correct height for ADA purposes, and we framed them in and got them nice and clean and nice looking in the middle school. So that was a fun little project that we got to do. And we also assist a lot of other departments throughout the year, whether it comes out of facilities budget or not. We really give a lot of our time to other departments. So for the schools in particular, the school kitchens went through a massive upgrade overhaul over the summer, which required a lot of electric and plumbing, and they didn't know how to meet code on all that. So we were working very close with them to make sure everything got installed correctly and on time. So that was a big pull this year for them. And that's
Are you looking to interrupt Nick, Gene, or no?
How many more slides do you have, Nick?
yeah, just a couple.
Okay,
It's just a few.
Why don't
yeah.
you finish, and then Mark, Diane, and I have questions.
And then this is just stuff that we do on a routine basis. Repairs on all the HVAC, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of filters and belts get done every year because we do it so many times a year. And we use a great work order program that keeps track of all of our assets, which is awesome. And it enables us to kind of, plan for the future a lot better now because we know what pieces of equipment are the needy ones. But that's pretty much it.
Okay, so Mark, Diane, me, and then Fran has a question also.
Stop sharing next, so we get up on the screen.
Yeah, that's right. There we go. All right.
So I forget how long ago it was, but we approved money over at the library to shore up some masonry at the front.
Yep.
How did that all turn out? Is that
Yeah, yeah. So right now we're sitting, we're in the shored up state.
okay?
This next little project we're doing is the actual tear down repair. So
And
it
so
was made safe, and then we're doing the repair now.
and we're just going to progress like one elevation at a time, work our way around.
Yeah. We had a full assessment done of the building, and certain phases are a little worse conditions than other, which is going to allow us to phase it. And in talking with the contractor that did the assessment, they think that's a great plan to go ahead because that's a big nut to crack if we do it all at once. And the way that the building is, it just makes sense to phase it. So after this year, we're going to really start doing the bigger phases of it, and it'll give us a little more time to wrap our heads around the scope, which will be nice too.
And where is the anticipated funding from that?
Most likely capital, unless because of the building, maybe CPC. CPC did help with the roof project there too. So
Okay. And then on the high school, middle school roof, how's that roof? I mean, I think that roof's been a topic of conversation for a while too.
Since
Yeah.
2010 on the high school one.
So what's going on with that one?
So,
Deer Hill.
Where are we in the queue?
Yeah.
That's my whole
so
question.
Deer Hill and the high school are the same age, because they had renovations at the same time. Osgood was 1998, so that was a little ahead. The biggest driving force is that we don't qualify to apply to the MSBA until the roofs are 25 years old and not 20 years old. So the average life of that roof is 20 years, but they won't give us funding until they're 25 years old.
So we
so-
have roofs up there that haven't even last 25 years and they're already, that seems shocking in itself, that.
I mean, 20 years is what you're gonna get out of an EPDM roof. They just get thin over the years because of snow and all that. But Osgood being 1998, that met the criteria, so that was first on our hit list for sure. So we luckily got in first try, and we're gonna go through the motions, and that'll be done next summer. So summer 26, not this summer. It's a long process, but it's worth it to get the funding. So Deer Hill's next on our list because that's in worse condition than the high school. The high school, since we've started this preventive maintenance program, we've really gotten a handle of that place. We're obviously going to have leaks. You're going to have leaks on a brand new roof, depending on weird rain conditions or snow. So, but right now we're less than 1% wet insulation on the entirety, which is not bad at all in roofing standards. So we're in good shape. My whole mantra right now is I expect to try to get these roofs to last the high school. I mean, another 8 years.
My God.
So that's kind of my mindset towards it. We kind of have to based on the accelerated repair program. That's only open every 2 years. So we can only apply to it every 2. And then, the whole discussion about new middle high school and how they're applying for a new building, that also adds to the rub of how we are able to do these larger scale projects to that building, because the appetite might not be there if we're just going to tear the building down. So I'm kind of in a make things last phase, but I'm not going to not ask for things at the same time. We can have those discussions. But that's where we're at for that. So middle high school will be the last on the list for schools, according to condition right now.
Thanks.
But we have a good handle on it. So
Diane?
Yeah, make things last is a good strategy, but not necessarily forever. I just had a quick question when you were talking about replacing the floors in the Deer Hill.
Mhm.
And is that something your team actually did, or did you contract and manage it?
Yeah, that's a contract
Yeah,
job. Yeah,
I
yeah,
wondered.
yeah. That's a very, very big project. We ended up phasing it just because monetarily it made sense at the time. But uh, at the end of the day, it's a great project just because you get rid of the whole waxing and stripping of the floors. You know, that's less chemicals in the building. That's just less labor. It's great, and it's a better product. It's an all natural product. It's been around forever, but it's kind of coming back around now. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, we should be good over there.
Is that it, Diane? Okay, so as I said, in 2010, I ran for school committee and was on the school committee until 2019. We were talking about that high school roof from day one.
Yeah,
And they kept pushing and pushing it forward and saying, no, it's not ready, it's not ready, it's not ready. So any leaks that are on there, man, they've been on there for a long time. So I'm glad to hear that you're at least inspecting and figuring out. And I've always also advocated for fixing what's broken and not necessarily, you know, I won't go there about buying a new school if you don't need it.
yeah.
'Cause
Now,
So
in part of the
far.
inspection too, and part of the contract is it's actually repairing the leaks too. So what we do is throughout, you know, over a period of time, we have the calls come in about leaks. We do our own inspection and we mark all the leaks down on a map. And when they come out to do their inspection, we hand them the map, and every single spot where we have a problem, they will fix the leak as they go. So usually a tiny pinhole looks like a waterfall inside. People think that, oh, it's the end of the world, the roof is in terrible condition. You would be shocked how much water comes through a tiny little hole. So
Yeah.
they're easy to fix, quick patch, never comes back, you know, that kind of thing. We do have some other issues that some of the rooftop units will leak during certain rains.
Right.
Making them look like a roof leak. They're not, unfortunately, so it's kind of hard to convince people of that. But and that's something that's we really can't stop. If driving rain is going in the the intake, it's gonna get into the building regardless. But yeah, so we're gonna be able to make it last, barring catastrophic stuff going on.
Okay, and one more question about that. Have the leaks above the gym all been fixed? Because I did notice at
Yeah,
town
so that roof
last
does
time,
not have
the
any
paint's
leaking
gone.
going
Oh.
on. That's
I'm-
that's the area in particular that it comes in the rooftop units. So those units are we're in the process of trying to see if we can get those replaced, but they have some rot, they have some issues going on, and they leak a
Oh.
little bit. So the roof itself, though, that roof does not leak anywhere. It's getting in the units, coming in the ductwork.
Okay, it's good to know because there was always a mystery and it was very controversial.
Yeah, it's just a tough spot because obviously where it comes in is just worst spot to happen. But we've installed a lot of catch pans under them, which we got custom made and installed ourselves. So those have really helped a lot. Can't catch it all, but we're getting a bulk of it.
Great. Fran?
Hi, yeah, I have a question and a comment. Question is, I noticed on those little lockers that you get the fire extinguishers in, there were locks on the doors. Are those doors locked?
Yes. So the way that those operate are they have this little breakaway tab on them. So it's like I'm not gonna say it's like the old days where you break glass to get in. When you
Yeah.
pull, it snaps a little. It's very easy to do. So it's just something that lets you know if somebody's been tampering with it, basically. But yeah, it pulls right open.
So it's easily accessible then, even
Oh,
though
yeah,
it's a locker.
yeah, that's just how they're designed. It's like a little plastic tab that keeps the door shut, so it's not
I get-
swinging.
I get you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
The other
breaks
comment
down.
I have is I haven't had an EPDM roof on my house here. I've got a very long, almost not quite flat, but very,
Yeah.
a roof that it couldn't take shingles. So we had a black roof put on and several years ago before I retired, I said, let me replace this roof before I get retired and have big expenses. So I asked the roofer, does it come in white? And he said, yes, it did. We put a white roof on and it lowered the temperature upstairs in the summertime by about 15 degrees
Yeah.
on a sunny day. Something you should think about for the schools, energy
We,
conservation.
when we did the library roof, we did a restoration on that roof.
Yeah.
Which, if the roof qualifies, is the best way to go. It's way less money to get a restoration done. And we did white on the library roof for that.
Yeah.
Roof. So,
So you're aware of that. Okay,
oh,
that's good.
yeah, we'd be looking to do that for sure. That's the energy part of it is big for us at the moment. So
Good. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? No? Okay. Did you have more to share with us, Nick? Or was that the end?
Yeah, that was about it.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Okay, so next is, well, facilities, but DPW and facilities were together and Brian's not available, so we ready to move to the fire department discussion, Chris?
Perfect.
Okay.
Well,
Were you gonna say something, Mark? No, okay.
Oh, good evening, everyone. Thank
Hi.
you for having me this evening. Basically, I'm here for the FY26 fire budget. My request is $3.2 million. This request is up $37,000 from last year's budget. It's broken down into 3 categories: personnel, overtime, and expenses. 2.4 for personnel salaries, $2.4 million personnel salaries, overtime $520,000, and total expenses $267,000 for a grand total of $3,243,443. Did you get the packet that I brought for the budget?
We did.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions for regarding the packet that was forwarded to you with the breakdowns of salaries and overtime and expenses?
No, I think I was just looking to see if but you said it just now, it was up $37,000 from last year.
Yeah, I'm looking at last year's budget proposed, it's up $37,000. It's an increase of $37,000.
Was there one area of the budget that was mostly captured in? Is it salaries? Is it?
Salaries, overtime, because we are short, well, we're not short, we have 3 open positions and it's been very difficult to fill positions. I have one individual in the academy now. When he comes out, he probably won't count towards staffing until the middle of the summertime. But we still have 3 openings and we are trying to fill those openings and it's very difficult. So that's driving some of the overtime.
It's not just fire departments that are having that issue. It's crazy.
Yep, it is. It is. So that's what's the big driver. The increase in my budget this year is overtime.
Gotcha. Okay.
And with that, with the staffing concern there of the 3 open positions, do we have any folks that we anticipate retiring that would?
The only one, well, there's 2 of us that are getting close to retirement. I'm one of them, and the other one's the assistant chief. But no. We're the ones the closest to retirement. So, and I'm not planning to go anywhere. So you got me and the assistant chief for a couple more years. So
Good. Diane?
This is probably more of a Chris question. Sorry, Chris, as he as he darted out. But just putting some of my past discussions into play. is there like a personnel committee or some kind of discussion about how to handle, especially with the public safety, you know, fire and police having overtime issues and what that does in terms of draining the employees you have that are working overtime, and at some point somebody's not going to be able to work overtime? It's a completely not a budget question as much as it is a staffing resources and kind of, you know, happy with the job sort of thing. And I'd love to see some kind of long-term discussion about that.
So it is actually a budget discussion because it's a resource question, right? We've had them on both sides, and I agreed to raise and pitched, and we raised the number of we've gone up, we've increased 3 positions in the time I've been here. The budgeted positions. The problem is we've never gotten to 24. We keep trying. So on the police side, we actually added a new body into the budget to help with that. And then we ended up adding a school resource officer that ended up absorbing the position. At the same time, though, what we did on the police side is we were able to get out of civil service to negotiation. And we have 3 officers now that are backfilled because there were a couple of retirements and somebody left for another department. And we've been able to backfill much more quickly. So we're in those conversations with the fire union. Because we've actually been able to, you know, with fire, there's a little more flexibility, and I say that a little bit more in the sense that we have most of our the large majority of our calls are in the day. Right? When I said that, it's again, it's like roughly 8 to 6. So it's not exactly that, but it's roughly 8 to 6. So we've been able to staff in the daytimes, even if we're a little short, and then we fall down a little bit at night because it's unusual to have multiple calls at night, right? And if there's some big emergency, we have backup from our neighboring departments. And so that said, we'd like to get to 24. We'd like to do that. That said, we've kind of reached a degree of balance, I think, though again, we'd like to be at 24. That said, we've been able to be a little more, both on the union side and operationally, a little more flexible. And, you know, John's has a really good working relationship with the crews. And it's a fairly young department. I mean, as John pointed out, right, there's not a lot of folks. We had a number of retirements. So other than, you know, John and Jack, I think the next nearest person is like 7 or 8 years away, right? I think it's Randy.
Correct. Yeah, the next one's about 7 or 8 years away, so.
I mean, you can always leave early, but but very few people do that. So, so we have had a fair number of new hires over the last, I don't know, 5-6 years, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah.
So they're young. I mean, it's working. We'd love to get to 24. Now, if we can successfully negotiate getting out of civil service, I think we'll be able to hire better, and that will help. And because we think that 24 works, because the experiment was, okay, let's have a shift of 6 and a shift of 5. Shift of 6 is better, right? You can always have somebody missing and still be okay. When you start having shifts of 5, you got on a 4. Well, 4 is kind of like the minimum. We don't like to go below 4 because if 3 people go out of town on an ambulance, what are you doing, right? And that can sometimes happen. So, is that kind of it? So it's something we're looking at, and again, I think we've been able to. And the other thing with police that's different than fire is that we actually have we've been able to recruit some retired folks from other communities to be specials for us, and we have a couple of former police officers who became Boston firefighters, who work for us as specials too. So they have that great flexible fire schedule. Problem is, there's nothing like that on the fire side. I mean, there is no. I wish there was. I mean, if we could create, these pop-up paramedics, I'd love it, right? On-call paramedics.
I don't want one of them responding to me though.
No. I know what you're saying.
Traffic is okay.
Right. So I don't. I don't. And again, we don't really use. We sometimes use those guys to cover full shifts. So I just don't. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you have any thoughts, John. I just the whole world's evolving. Right. We're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. And it's, first of all, the on-duty staff is, they're filling these open spots, and I can commend them for doing that, to keeping us, the residents, safe and themselves safe. But, I talk about, we have 3 openings. Hingham to the north of us, they have 7 openings. and they're having a hard time filling 7 openings. Okay, they're they're a busy department than us. Their pay is a little bit better than us, but again, and there's so many, not numerous towns throughout this Commonwealth have openings that run the ambulances. Departments that don't run an ambulance, like a Weymouth, Quincy, Boston, Cambridge, they have no problem filling those spots. It's the departments with the ambulances are having a really hard time under civil service getting paramedics. I just requested a list about a month ago, 176 names on the list, statewide paramedics. One individual came in, signed the list, didn't return the packet. So it's a tough go. We're going to look at now trying to maybe find basic EMTs that are in paramedic school and see where they are in their progression of school. And if they're halfway through it towards the end, hopefully they'll come work with us. And once they get out of the academy, we'll train them up to be a paramedic because they've done with their schooling. So we're looking at all different avenues to fill these spots, and it's really, really tough. And we're not the only town doing the same thing, looking at the basic list to see if there are individuals in paramedic school. Hingham, Hull, Situate, they're all doing the same thing.
Is it housing?
It's not housing. I think part of it, Fran, is COVID. COVID came through and kind of ruined the healthcare profession. You know, I can remember years ago, people, a lot of paramedics wanted to go to nursing school, and it was tough to get in nursing school. You know, there was like 1,000 people for like 10 nursing schools. Now there's like 10 nursing schools looking to fill those 1,000 seats, and there's only maybe like 20 people. Same thing, paramedic schools. There were probably a dozen paramedic schools back when I started. Now there's 2 around here, and they're having a hard time filling their numbers to run a class that would be profitable for them. So
Yeah.
COVID really did some damage to the healthcare profession.
And just really quickly, it wasn't so much is Cohasset trying to solve this problem, because I know we've been on this for a long time. It really is kind of a bigger picture problem industry-wide and across the state. So yeah, we all need to bring some brain power to that.
Yeah.
Figure
Yeah.
out what's ahead of us.
Yep.
Thanks.
Mark,
So, couple of questions there. Just does the you mentioned civil service, and the police department exited from civil service, right? Is that something? And I'm not really terribly familiar with how that works in your world there, but is that an option for the fire department?
Yes.
We remain in active negotiations with the fire union, and I'm not giving away any secrets to say that's been on the table, right?
Is that something that communities in our region, in our size, tend to do? This isn't like, would they still be union firefighters? Is
Yeah.
it-
Yep.
no.
Yep. No, prime example is Rockland. Rockland just left civil service. And they're in the process of trying to fill spots too. I think they've had some success, not full success, but they've had some success in filling those spots. Because if we leave civil service, allows us to cast a wider net for hiring.
Okay. And not so much an FY26 question here, but as the new public safety building comes online, and we have that backup ambulance in service more, is that going to change our staffing and are we going to rely less on support from our neighboring communities and being able to run that second ambulance when we need to? And obviously we need to have the staff to do so. Does that ambulance and that facility up there change our staffing and the program and plan in anticipation of that?
No, my plans, it's not gonna really change our staffing. That would be the primary ambulance for the community, up on 3A, because that's where a lot of our calls are, the 3A corridor. The ambulance at headquarters, depending on the staffing of the day, we would hopefully be able to use it for the next call. But if we didn't, then we'd have to rely on mutual aid. It's all about our day staffing. That, like Chris had mentioned, we try to run at 6 during the day, and at night we fall back because the volume does tend to drop off a little bit at night. So again, it's all going to be a staffing issue. And again, if we're at 24, you know, 4 groups to 6, that'd be beneficial. But right now, again, we got to fill our staffing first before we can address those issues.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you. If nobody else has any questions?
And then just the other thing too, so that was just the general budget for the department, and then the other thing too for capital, met with capital budget committee twice so far, last Monday night too. Looking to replace our 2014 ambulance, our A2. It's got 150,000 miles. It's going to take 36 months to replace it. And how we do our rolling stock is the lead ambulance runs about 5 to 6 years in the first slot, and then moves to the second slot as the reserve mechanical backup ambulance. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is just replace 2014 with a new ambulance, and then that will take our A1, which is the primary ambulance now, and put it in the reserve spot. And that's what we've been doing ambulances about. We run them about 10 to 12 years. And that's about the normal life cycle for an ambulance, emergency ambulance.
And what's the replacement cost for an ambulance, Chief?
So right now, the one is $500,000.
And did the I would imagine the old units have some residual value, not as high as you would want. Not a lot.
No, they really don't. Talking with Michelle Leary, I think it would probably be a good truck for facilities, because it has cabinets, storage. I feel bad for facilities, they like the hand-me-down. We have given them, and the police have given them some vehicles that we've rolled off our stock, and it would probably work for them.
And the fire engine
Fire engine,
probably isn't going to.
I don't think facilities want a fire engine. Nick, do you want a fire engine in a couple of years?
I'll take a fire engine. That'd be cool.
Yeah, you
Actually, a
think-
ladder. I want the ladder, Chief.
So yeah, so that's the fire department budget in a nutshell.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief.
Good night. Thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm around 24/7.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But don't reach out 24/7. That's
No,
kind.
we won't be calling you in the middle of the night.
Don't reach back out to the committee 24/7.
Right. Neither of us, right?
So,
It's reciprocal.
Well, I know with some of you, well, I should say, I know where most of you all live.
It's true. Let's hope.
so, while I can just go over the public works budget, I'm not Brian, and I can't really get into the weeds as much as he would be able to. So, would you like me to bring him back for a future date?
Yeah, why don't you see if he can come to our next regular meeting?
Okay.
That would be great. And are you gonna cover community services, which is
Yeah,
the
so I'll
next item?
walk through those. So you all have them.
Yeah.
and, I can share them if everyone wants to. So, basically, we one of the things that we did when I first got here was just take a look at how everything reported, and the town manager had like 25 or 27 direct reports. It was just silly. And Diane remembers all that well. And so we kind of we created these kind of themed areas. Some of them were natural, right? Public safety, right? Finance already kind of existed. We put public works in a group, and one of the and we had some left kind of and planning permits and inspections were kind of in a group. And then we had an area that was all very front facing, kind of public servicey, that themed we called community services, and that's it's the senior center, it's the recreation, it's the library, it's Safe Harbor, and it's veteran services. And I've had someone as kind of the point on that ever since, and it was a couple of HR directors at various times, and now it's Megan, and it was her before she became the HR director. So Megan James is kind of she kind of has regular meetings with that team, and they collaborate on programs and all of that. So that said, there really hasn't. So you have all the budgets, and I'm happy to post if anyone has any questions about stuff. I'm happy to answer it. We have, the Elder Affairs has been doing great. As Meg Stewart, the director, pointed out last time at the select board, attendance is up over from this year to last year, which is great. So I give it 24 to 23, the calendar year stuff. And also in the fiscal year, it's up from last fiscal year. And she's also going through a bit of a staff transition. We have Liza retiring. She'd been with the center for years. And it's just a natural time. And then Richie, the admin, has he's taken a job in Plymouth, which way he lives. So he's going to be working down there. So just today, I signed off on a hire for the new admin. It's a greeter that they had is now moving up to the full admin. So she'll officially start that on Monday. And then they're still casting a wide net for they're reclassing what Liza had done as as an outreach coordinator, and the assistant director will just be an assistant director, doing a lot of different things, but it's not outreach per se. So the search continues for both of those positions. So if anybody knows anybody or might be interested in one of those, or is really a good fit, outreach doesn't have to be a social worker, but that kind of an approach would be great. And and their budget's been fairly stable. We did create a revolving fund for them a few years ago. Yeah, and I forget, the select board was like HR first, right? And then we started to look at audits, and we found that they were keeping all of their program money like in a shoebox. Now it was nice and clean and counted. So we created a revolving fund. So the nice thing is that money comes in and it can support, money comes in for a program. If one program gets a little better support than another, they can help subsidize some of the other programs. So the fees pay just like rec does in the program. So look at caught up in the budget. And their congregate meals have done well. So we're able to use some grant money. And now the budget's the position's been baked in. It's a part-time kitchen coordinator. The woman who used to work for a very large corporate catering company, and she retired to Hull. She's great. I don't know if anyone's ever been up there for a lunch. The lunches are great. They have these once a month events now where Joan is kitchen coordinator she's an amazing baker and pastry chef, and she's made some great stuff. And she invited the town staff are invited to come over and just mingle. So I've been over there a couple of times for that with other staff members. So they've done really well. This year we're trying to incorporate a part-time social worker more into the budget that had been funded by a grant from the social service before. So on rec, there's only 2 positions in rec that are funded through the budget. Everything else is on a revolving fund. And as anyone who's been in class at any length of time, or whose kids have gone to any programs or are going to programs, I think every kid or every family touches class at rec at some point or multiple times. And that program continues to do well. We just added a second program coordinator that's being funded fully through the revolving fund. Peter Kohler, who has a degree in recreation, so he's got 3 full-timers in that fund, 2 funded through the budget and 1 through the revolving funds. The library continues to we have, I think, the highest. I can share these numbers, but we have the highest. I think it might be in the report, the highest per capita in the region for borrowing materials. I mean, Cohasset really punches above its weight in use of the library, and there's great programming up there. And there's been a bit of a generational change too. A number of people retired up there, so there's a new team librarian and there's a new reference librarian. And what they're going to do this year is kind of craft a position called assistant director. They've never had one, which will, because they're open 56 hours a week, and you can't stretch the director to cover all of those hours. I mean, it's nice, but it's not reasonable to have them be there 7 days a week, because the library is open 7 days a week, certain times a year. And so we're gonna upgrade a position and recast another one. So it's technically a headcount ad, but it's not gonna be as impactful on the budget just because they're gonna recast another position. So that library continues to thrive. Veterans Affairs is, Phil Mahoney is our veterans officer. He's doing really good, he's doing really good work, and he's part-time. I mean, we get reimbursed a year lag for a percentage of the work we do. So he continues to do great outreach, and we support folks in that. And Safe Harbor, which got caught up for a little bit in some of these machinations of cutting funding, because we're still in a federal grant for that through the CDC. We have started to build the resource into the health budget. So we have money for all their programming now is really in the health budget, and half of one of the salaries. So over the next couple of years, we'll continue to build that. We do have money from the opioid settlement, which will also help with that over the next 5 to 10 years. We have that opioid money, and that'll help. That actually just allowed us to we had 1.5 staff, now it's 2. We were able to upgrade the program person to a full-time slot, that Emily from who we hired away from the home. And so it's now Nicole and Emily, and they're doing great work. I mean, if the number of kids that are involved with the Youth Ambassador program is great. I just hope that the federal government doesn't screw it all up, because it really has been an outstanding program, and it's all community based. And Diana's now, I think you're on the board now, right, Diane? I think, yeah.
I am, yeah.
So she can talk about it far more fluently than I can, but it's really it really is a great community school town effort, and we are going to be absorbing it fully into the town side. I just hope that the federal engagement piece doesn't end, because the kids going to Washington and lobbying and learning these skills are incredible. So I really hope that stays. But do you have a question, Mary?
I did, and just because you brought it up, because as I was reading through all these budgets, one of my thoughts was, wow, I wonder what effect Doge is going to have on our tiny little hamlet.
With you,
So
Diane.
I just, have you, I mean, obviously, I think it's going to be a very sad, big impact on the school side, but do you have any idea about anything that might be coming? I realize we don't get a ton of federal funding, but still.
So in terms of, they were caught up, and they didn't get, they file their reimbursement and they get it within days. Everything froze for weeks, and Nicole came and met with me, and I'm concerned, and we planned. So don't worry, we're gonna pay you. I said, don't worry, just tell me. So she gave me what a budget would look like for the rest of the fiscal year. We knew that we had the opioid money in a worst case scenario to cover, and then to continue to plug. And fortunately, it turned back on. So, but they were on the select board agenda a few weeks back, and before that meeting, the funds were finally released. So I'm hoping they will continue to be released and supported, because it's about keeping kids off drugs. I mean, it's that, and there's no ideology in this other than public safety and helping kids live and help them. So now, that said, on the Public Health Excellence Grant, we're part of a Tri-Town Public Health Excellence Grant from the state. It's Hingham, Cohasset, and Situate, and we're the lead town in it. That's $433,000 a year. The select board just approved an IMA for the next 3 years, so it's $1.2 million over the next 3 years. It supports a number of things for all the towns, some for just a couple of the towns and some for all 3. So a regional public health nurse, social work services, food inspections. Hingham has some Title V inspections because they have a lot more septic than we do, and we share some food inspections with Situate. And there's a number of things and tobacco. We actually it's paid for tobacco inspectors for the town of Cohasset, and that money comes from the state, but we believe there's a chunk of federal money that's it's opaque to us, but it goes through and gets passed back through. So we're not sure what that's going to look like. So it could be that may have. Look, there's a slash and burn going on in Washington, and it's going to impact us, and it's going to impact the state, right? I mean, there are literally billions of dollars a year that flow into every state, by the way, and a lot of it is focused on, from a direct impact for us is roads, right? A lot of road money, because the money that the state gets allows them to shift money to us, right? Because we don't meet federal standards, right? We once won a grant in my prior community in New York. There was a federal grant for Safe Routes to School. It would have cost us more money to bring our road up to the standards they required than it was worth. I mean, we would have spent the money and more. And we're like, well, we don't need to be at federal highway standards for our little, 2-lane road through the middle of Manhasset. That said, the state, it's going to have impacts, and so I think part of it is wait and see, Mary. Directly, we don't have a lot of impacts. Again, the health grant might be one, the safe harbor for sure. But with the schools, we don't get a lot of federal money anymore. That said, if it affects the state, it's going to affect us.
Well, I know that'll be a conversation for next week. My concern is the special education allocations and things like that. I think that's going to be pretty bad, but that's a conversation for next week.
You have a question for me, Chief?
Did we get infrastructure money through?
No, we did. And that's all spent. So, it can't.
Okay, all right. My question was, I mean, I've heard horror stories about places that got money and it was scooped back. So
The good news is that we work very closely with the county to push it back out to us, and they did.
Good.
We used all of our infrastructure money. We put it into some water and a lot of sewer. There's an ongoing project right now. That's an I inflow and infiltration work around the meadow, where the plant is. Off Elm Street. There's a work going on out of harden the system, so that's all funded by ARPA. And so we just replaced this one of the membranes that was partially funded by ARPA too. So
Okay.
we won't see that money. I mean, the one thing is for sure, we're not going to see that again anytime soon.
No, it's going to be a long 4 years, I have to say. Diane?
Yeah, I have a lot to say, but just when,
Yeah.
speaking of the federal, because I asked the question a couple weeks ago, but one of the things I completely forgot about was Veterans Affairs and whether that's going to be impactful and how we can stay on top of all of these issues. And then there was just a disastrous Clean Water Air Act decision by the Supreme Court today. So that'll end up, we have very high standards in Massachusetts, but the fact that there's no move, and in fact, it's retreating for any kind of federal standard for drinking water is a disaster. But anyway, Veterans Affairs.
Yeah, so a lot of that money that we get is reimbursement. I don't know how much federal money is in that. Again, so one of the
Through the state though, doesn't it?
I mean, that's one of the things, right? This is really complicated. I mean, we're at the end of the pipeline of a lot of the stuff, right? So the state manages a lot of the money that comes through, and then we have to meet standards and all. And in case of Veterans Day, as you know, Massachusetts has one of the most robust, if not the most robust, veteran support program in the United States of America. People think where this liberal state doesn't support stuff, but that's not true at all. I mean, if you're a veteran of Massachusetts, you have a right to housing and support and job training and all kinds of things. There's no veteran left behind here. And I've heard some stories about some of the work that's been done in the decade that I've been here, helping people. There was one very sad, but rewarding end of life experience where the money went to help this guy who was basically homeless, and he was not. So he had a really good quality of life at the end for all the support that was given. And the surviving spouses and of veterans. The state has the town has approved the upgrades and deductions for taxes and those kinds of things. So those things will continue to thrive. I know I did see one of the headlines. I'm looking at laying off like 50,000 Veterans Affairs workers, and it's mind-boggling to me. I mean, these people work claims and they provide medical support. It's just, that said, it's not just affecting us, it's affecting every community in the United States of America, right? And I did see something like veterans are the largest single portion of federal employees, period. I'm not talking about even in the military, I'm talking outside of the military. So all these layoffs, like 30% or 20 or 30% of them are all veterans. They're all being fired. It's like, I don't know, nobody, so again, I don't want this to be, I mean, this is just not political. This is just operations.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, there was a way to do it and a way not to do it, and they did it the way that they shouldn't have done it. So let's, that said, that's as
So-
political as I'll get right now.
the
You
good-
don't want to get started.
No, but the good news, such as it is that our budget is not terribly directly impacted at all by federal,
Right.
not directly. That said, there will be impacts on the state, and that will almost certainly have trickle down effects.
The other thing just I want to say, which is a positive thing, I hope, which is it makes the work you do and we do all the more important. So
And
keep
that's-
at it.
That's, I mean, brother, we had a management meeting the other day, and I said that to everybody. I said, look, we know that, I know we all know this, but I'm saying it again. I said, the work we do every day really matters. There are people who may not realize the impact. That doesn't mean that we're not having one. I said, so I said, the work we do every single day, and I said that I interviewed somebody the other day for an admin job. I said, every job we have is important, somebody from the RTF. Every single position we have has an impact on the quality of life in Cohasset. Because that's what residents want, right? I mean, nobody sits around waiting. It's like the Maytag repairman waiting to be called either. It's like, if we're doing safe harbors because people said we need to do this, or we want to do this, and the library being open on Sundays because people want to use the library on Sundays. I mean, so the budget is lean, it's effective, and I think the budget for this year will be okay. I don't know what's going to happen in FY27 and beyond. But that's community services. So, and then we'll have Brian come back, and I think you've already had Ron. So you've really gotten all the big hits.
Yeah.
And I've talked about the shared budgets already, and we were fortunate that our healthcare numbers came down to the bottom. I mean, they're still high, but instead of being mid-pack, we're at the bottom of the pack. We're only getting a 10% increase, not a 15%. So, and I don't know if anyone saw in the papers, Blue Cross Blue Shield lost $300 million or something last year, or something crazy. To a large extent, being driven by all the weight loss drugs and a lot of these new biologics that are very specifically targeted, which I don't know how you can. I don't know. That's what the report said. And Blue Cross is our medical. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you want to move on to the warrant for a minute.
Sure.
Right, so I think you all have it, right? You all got copies of it. So let me see if
Yeah.
I have it on my screen. Let me see if I can open it up.
I'll just excuse myself for 1 minute. I'll be right back. Mary, you're in charge.
So I am now screen sharing. You can see the warrant, right? So there's only so I'll walk through it really quickly. So the first three articles are just it's recognizing citizens, employees, the annual town report, reports of committees. So there's really nothing there. We've already working on the operating budget. There's one unpaid bill currently that I'm hoping to find payment for, so we don't have to deal with it at town meeting. I'm finalizing the supplemental appropriations and the stabilization. Capital's very much deep in. One-time costs are kind of a little bit dependent on what happens with the schools. So the first one that in order that we look at tonight would be Article 10, which is an annual article that just sets the revolving funds and their annual spending limits. So there's nothing new in this one. The public health programs we added last fall and special, and that's going to be the rental registration program. So, and again, these can always be reset anyway by the select board in a public meeting, but we've never had to. So, if there's again, we have to wait for Gene to come back to vote on these, but so
I'm
this
here.
is
Sorry about that.
just this is an annual article. So, is anyone have any questions on this? Revolving funds, which is Article 10 in the warrant.
This is I have just a quick question on that tree revolving fund. Has that been there for a while? I forgot about it.
We had this, it's to pick up, if there's,
I remember it.
yeah, we had, if people, illegally take down trees because of, the historic way bylaw we did, right, and all that. And we actually have gotten some fines, by the way, that have gone into the fund, so.
Great. Sort of great, but you don't want the fines. You want to keep those.
No. And it's really there so that if it does come in, we can put it in the fund and use it for trees. Otherwise, it just goes into miscellaneous revenue, so. That is not something that we put a lot of money in typically, so.
These have been here, just procedurally, how come we're voting on these again? Or
Because the state law requires them to be reauthorized annually.
so we do this every year? Oh, I didn't realize we do this every year.
Beforehand, Mark, we couldn't even, it was much more complicated, believe it or not. So all that's being done every year is the spending limits. The funds themselves are permanent now. Yeah, they have to be reauthorized annually. Now, all you have to do is just approve the spending limits, that's all. So,
Okay, thanks.
So if you want to vote, I would encourage you to consider voting to recommend this so we can start moving through these.
Right, we do need to start making some progress because otherwise we'll end up at the end here until 11 o'clock one night. We don't want to do that. Excuse me, does anybody else have any questions or comments on this particular warrant article? No? Okay, so if not, I would take a motion to recommend Article 10, Department Revolving Funds Annual Spending Limits to town meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Diane.
Second,
Okay, then we need a roll call vote. Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Cameron, I.
Mary McGoldrick,
Mary McGoldrick, aye.
Fran Collins,
I,
Gina Stino, I'm an aye. So it's 5-0.
Well, you'll be getting Article 11, but not yet. Article 12. This is the annual renewal of Chapter 91 liability. We need, if any work gets done on the waterways in the Chapter 91 zone, we have to indemnify the state. I don't know that we have anything planned for sure, but it's something we renew every year. And unless it's
We have to have it in place just in case.
yeah.
move that we accept the Article 12.
I'm sorry, did you move it?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, great. Do I have a second?
Second,
Is that Mary?
yes.
Okay. All right, roll call, please. Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Mark Cameron. Mark,
Mark Cameron, I.
Mary McGoldrick,
Mary McGoldrick, aye.
Fran Collins.
Aye.
And Gina Stino, aye. So it's unanimous 5-0. And the next one, Chris?
Is Article 13. This is the additional real estate exemptions. These also have to be renewed annually. And these cover a variety of, if there's age and incapacity and income.
Right,
Any change from last year?
No, there's no change.
Okay.
all right.
Move
So
that
do
we
I have-
accept Article 13.
Okay, so that's Fran. Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, roll call. Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, I.
Mary McGoldrick,
Mary McGoldrick, aye.
Fran Collins.
Aye.
And Gina Stino, aye. Again, that's 5-0. And then there's sewer liens, right?
Yeah, so I don't have any, I'm only concerned here is I don't have any, we don't have any text in here from council yet.
Okay, I
Basically.
was gonna say, where is this article? What
Yeah,
number is it?
It's Article 17.
Okay,
So I have to get language from council, and I'm sorry, I don't have it yet. So basically, all it is the town's already accepted this for water. So we could lien a water bill if you don't pay it, and it goes on your tax bill. We've been doing it for sewer because sewer is part of the water bill for a long time, but I said you probably should just accept these. Sewer, just to be safe. That's all it is, but I would guess you probably would like to see language in here, so.
Yeah.
So let me get that.
So we can do that next time, maybe? It's a
Yeah, I
couple
think so. I
weeks
think
away.
that, and maybe all the one-time stuff, too, the stabilization funds and all of that. So, because
Yeah.
by next week, I'll know better where the school budget is, so I'll know what we're going to be doing. So, but I mean, for example, you already know that we're going to be doing.
I have an editorial
Yeah,
comment.
for example, we know we're.
Chris.
Yeah.
Chris, before we move on, I have an editorial comment about the water. And Fran, I'm sure remembers this, but if you didn't pay your water bill, your name was in the newspaper.
Yes.
Those are the good
Published.
old days.
And
Yeah.
one time, someone that I knew very well was in the newspaper for like $1.27. I couldn't.
Power of public shaming.
Yeah,
Well, that was also the beauty of the police log that used to be in the paper.
yeah. Well, when we had a paper, that was a nice thing.
Yeah.
We're all clueless. We're the slaves of Facebook, where most of the information is wrong. But anyway,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Chris, to interrupt.
No, that's where we are on those. So not for the 11th, but for the 19th, you should have a whole slew of these. So.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm not anticipating that we're going to do anything of any substance other than the school budget on the 11th. I think that will be an interesting and fulsome conversation. And if we could get that information as soon as possible before the 11th,
We've asked, and
that would be great.
they've told us we're going to be getting it Friday, so I hope that's the case.
Good. Okay. A couple of us remember what it was like providing that information, so we'll appreciate receiving it. So.
And I will send all of you the FY26 line item so you have it.
Excellent. Okay. And we know we're not going to hold you to it. We know that it's still a work in progress and it will be marked draft, but it'll give us a starting point for conversation if we have questions.
Gotcha. Okay. Anything else for me tonight?
I don't. Does anybody here have anything for Chris? Any questions you want to ask?
Just a preview of what is this citizens petition Article 20 on the?
It's to expand.
The sewer district, right?
Yeah, it's to add it's what's now 2 additional parcels to the North Glassett Sewer District that are on Lambert's Lane. There was a parcel that has a little tongue of land that's literally, I think, it's 5 feet wide or 10 feet wide that touches Hull Street. And that was included in the sewer district when it was created. I'm not sure if it should have been or not, but it was. There's a parcel next to it that's now been joined with it. And the gentleman who owns it now is trying to get sewer on all 4 of them, which is what this is about. So he made an argument that there was just an error. It's like, no, there was no error. The only things that were included in North Cohasset were on Hull. If you were on Lambert, you didn't get connected because there was no pipeline. So this proposal from the gentleman who owns it is to expand the sewer district to include these other 2 lots.
And is there an impact to our budget or is it all on the homeowner?
Well, I mean, the impacts on the homeowner at the same time, it's precedent setting, right? The districts have never been expanded this way before. Right?
Okay.
And if it
Is
starts.
somebody actually asking to be added?
Right, and there's a finite capacity, but more importantly, it changes. Right now, there's 1 house on what this guy wants to turn into 4 houses. Right, so it's really precedential in that sense, right? The town is not yet. I mean, the Little Harbor being a demand for environmental reasons. This is literally saying that they want to just maximize the potential build out of 4 lots. So, because I don't think the ground perks, otherwise, but I'm not gonna swear to that.
And I would, so the, right now the sewer runs down Holt Street, 228.
And it's Hingham's line too, it's not on ours. But there's nothing on Lambert's line.
Okay, and cost wise, it would be,
It'll be borne by the homeowner. At the same time, it could potentially, the real issue. So here's what happens procedurally. The sewer commission has to hear it. And they vote either to support it or oppose it. If they vote to oppose it, town meeting needs a 2/3 vote to add it to the sewer district. If they vote to support it, it only needs a majority vote. That makes sense? So that's how the rules work. And that hearing is coming up in a couple of weeks.
Okay. All right, Fran?
I got a couple of questions, Chris. I see that Situate is proposing a proceeding with a sewering program for North Situate. Does that mean we are totally out of the loop in terms of connecting Situate, Cohasset, and Hull together? Is that absolutely a done deal? I mean, a dead deal at this point?
Well, I can say that's not an active conversation today. I mean, I can't tell you in the future what might or might not happen, but as of today, that's not an active.
Are there any plans to sewer this end of town?
What end of town? Oh, you mean your street?
Yeah,
You have to talk to the sewer commission. I'm not sure. I know it had been a priority of theirs, but they've kind of set it aside.
I mean,
by the way-
we just paved the street, so that's not gonna happen.
Well, no, it could happen so long as the sewer project pays for the entire repaving.
Yeah,
And by the way, there are 2 seats right now. Wayne resigned, so there's a 1-year term that's available. No one's pulled papers for it, and Bill McGowan has not yet pulled papers for his election. So there's for sure 1 seat open. So this is just a public service announcement.
thank you. And the other question I have is, there's an awful lot of confusion and concern at the harbor in terms of who is going to run Cohasset Harbor, and this is as a result of our world famous oyster war that we're having. Has there been any progress with kissing and the making up of Situate, or are we still suing each other?
Fighting?
So I will say 2 things. I will say Cohasset continues to manage the harbor as it always has. And secondly, there are ongoing conversations. So
Okay.
So there's
The concern was that Situate would start taking the funds for the mooring fees for the portion of the harbor that's in Situate, and that would put a huge dent in our harbor operating revenue. Is that a concern or not?
we're continuing to operate the harbor as we always have.
Thank you.
And there's ongoing conversations with Situate.
Okay, thank you.
Mary and then Diane.
You almost sounded like Prime Minister Trudeau there for a second,
Yeah, you
Chris.
did a nice job.
Is this citizens petition gonna spark any other little pockets like this? I'm just kind of curious if you've heard of other little neighborhoods.
Well, see, in the last 10 years, there have been a couple of these before, right? On King Street, this went out in front of 1 town meeting, if not 2, and it was defeated. I think it either was defeated or was withdrawn. I forget. And there was another conversation, I think, up in the northern, somewhere in Beechwood. But it's been on but several years back, there was a citizen petition to do this on King Street, and it was either rejected or they withdrew because the sewer commission didn't support it. Again, this is not the first time this has happened. It's never happened. So the answer is yes. If you remember the debate when Cook Estates was added to, that was just a couple of years ago, and that was a crisis. The people were like, why I want my sewer in my neighborhood next. So I think based on just past history here, I would say yes, if there would be more people seeking this.
Okay.
Diane?
I was gonna do the same public service announcement about at least 1 open seat on sewer. But the other question I have is, you were saying that the sewer commission is hearing the plea for the sewer hookup on Hull Street. Is that just outside of the citizens petition? Like, let's say they were to approve it.
So the way it works, Diane, is if someone petitions like that, under the law that Paul Durensis wrote, which what governs here, is that the sewer commission has to hold a public hearing on it, and they can either vote to support it or to reject it. If they vote to support it, it still goes it has to go to town meeting, and you need a majority vote. If the sewer commission votes against it, then the town meeting needs a 2/3 vote.
Right.
So that's how it works.
So just for clarification, the citizens petition that's on the warrant is the petition that they're adjudicating.
Correct.
Perfect, thank you. Got it.
The sewer commission has never independently put on a warrant, a one-off like this.
Right.
They've never shied away from it.
And sort of my question is really all about, at some point, we owe it to town meeting to let them know what the actual concerns might be. Should we do this? And that's something that will come out of the hearing from sewer, and hopefully they'll speak on that.
There'll be a Zoom meeting at some point, I think in a couple of weeks, and I would watch the website or just check with my office. And I think the ad just being put in place, so it'll probably be in a couple of should be in a couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Yep. All right. Thanks.
Okay, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Oh, happily.
Okay, so I'll take Mark, and second would be Diane.
Second.
Hold on.
Jean, you're the best. meeting manager.
8:32, we're only a few minutes late. Okay, so roll call to adjourn, please. Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins,
Aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
and Gina Stino, aye. Thank you, folks, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Jean,
Is
you
it-
know, I am not here on Tuesday.
Right, but everybody else?
Who's gonna call me then, Mary?
I'll call Mary and she can call you. Yeah.
Except,
Remember
If
this.
we, if it's
We'll have a phone
possible,
team.
Chris, to get those materials, because I'd love to read through